Mary, Queen of Scots, remains one of the most enigmatic and tragic figures in British history. Known for her beauty, intelligence, and complex life story, her reign and ultimate demise have captivated historians and readers for centuries. A particularly controversial element of her life is the so-called Casket Letters, a series of documents that purportedly proved her involvement in the murder of her second husband, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley. These letters, discovered under highly questionable circumstances, became instrumental in Mary's downfall and have fueled debates about her character and motives. Mary Stuart was born in 1542 to James V of Scotland and his French wife, Mary of Guise. As the sole legitimate child of James, Mary became queen at just 6 days old, following her father's sudden death. Due to her royal lineage, she was not only Queen of Scotland but also had a legitimate claim to the English throne, a factor that complicated her life and heightened political tensions. Raised in France, she married the Dauphin Francis in 1558, becoming Queen Consort of France a year later. However, Francis's untimely death in 1560 left her widowed and without political influence in France, prompting her return to Scotland. Mary's return was fraught with challenges. Scotland was deeply divided along religious lines, with growing Protestant influence challenging the Catholic monarchy. As a devout Catholic, Mary faced an uphill battle in maintaining her authority. In 1565, she married her cousin Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley, a union that seemed to promise dynastic security. However, Darnley soon proved to be a flawed and dangerous choice, driven by jealousy and ambition. The marriage quickly deteriorated, and in 1567, Darnley was found murdered under mysterious circumstances, a brutal event that would become the foundation for Mary's downfall. The Casket Letters were discovered in a silver-gilt casket in 1567, following the arrest of James Hepburn, Earl of Bothwell. Bothwell was widely suspected of being Mary's lover and the orchestrator of Darnley's murder. Following Darnley's death, Mary's marriage to Bothwell raised suspicions and sparked outrage among the Scottish nobility and public. Her opponents seized upon this scandal, arresting Bothwell and taking Mary into custody. In the midst of the political turmoil, the discovery of the Casket Letters purportedly offered proof of her complicity in Darnley's murder and provided her enemies with the justification they needed to remove her from power. The Casket Letters, consisting of 8 letters, sonnets, and other documents, were allegedly written by Mary to Bothwell, expressing her love for him and outlining details of a plot to murder Darnley. The letters, however, were highly controversial. Critics argued that they were forgeries fabricated to frame Mary and undermine her legitimacy. Moreover, the circumstances surrounding their discovery were dubious, as they were produced by the Scottish lords who stood to gain the most from Mary's downfall. Despite the questionable nature of the letters, they were used as evidence in a trial against her, leading to her forced abdication in favour of her infant son James VI. Following her escape from captivity in Scotland, Mary sought refuge in England, where she expected her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I, to provide her with support. However, Elizabeth faced a dilemma. Mary's presence threatened the stability of her own rule, as many English Catholics viewed Mary as the legitimate Queen of England. Elizabeth ultimately chose to imprison Mary rather than risk her influence on English Catholics and foreign powers. Mary remained under English custody for 19 years, during which time the question of her involvement in Darnley's murder remained unresolved. The Casket Letters continued to haunt her, and Elizabeth used them as a means to justify Mary's imprisonment, citing the potential danger she posed to the English crown. During her long captivity, Mary became a focal point for Catholic plots against Elizabeth. Eventually, her alleged involvement in the Babington plot, a conspiracy to assassinate Elizabeth and place Mary on the English throne, provided Elizabeth with the justification to try her for treason. In 1587, Mary was found guilty and executed, marking the tragic end of her life and reign. Though she was condemned for treason, her legacy as a tragic and romanticized figure endured, symbolizing the struggle between political ambition and personal vulnerability. One of the most enduring debates surrounding Mary, Queen of Scots, is whether the Casket Letters were genuine or forged. Historians remain divided on the matter, as there is no definitive evidence proving their authenticity. If genuine, the letters suggest that Mary was involved in Darnley's murder, either directly or through encouragement of Bothwell. Such a conclusion would cast her as a ruthless queen, willing to eliminate obstacles to her power. However, if the letters were forged, as many historians suspect, they would represent one of the most significant political deceptions in history. Several factors cast doubt on the authenticity of the letters. Firstly, the content of the letters differs significantly from Mary's usual style of writing, raising suspicions about their authorship. Furthermore, the letters were never subjected to rigorous forensic analysis, as such methods were not available at the time. The Scottish lords who produced the letters had much to gain from Mary's downfall, leading to speculation that they may have doctored or entirely fabricated the documents. The letters also conveniently emerged at a time when Mary's enemies were desperate for evidence against her, a fact that further undermines their credibility. In addition to doubts about their authenticity, the handling of the letters by authorities was questionable. Despite their significance, the original letters have been lost, with only copies and descriptions remaining. The circumstances under which they were discovered and presented as evidence were far from transparent, adding to the suspicions surrounding their veracity. Over the centuries, scholars and authors alike have questioned whether the letters were a ploy orchestrated by Mary's adversaries to secure her removal from power and facilitate Protestant dominance in Scotland. The impact of the Casket Letters on Mary's life and legacy cannot be understated. Whether real or fabricated, the letters provided her opponents with the leverage needed to ruin her reputation, forcing her abdication and eventual imprisonment. In the long term, the letters became a symbol of the precariousness of female rule, particularly for a queen like Mary, who was perceived as both politically ambitious and personally vulnerable. Mary's story, intertwined with the mystery of the Casket Letters, has since become a cultural touchstone. Her life has inspired countless works of literature, art and film, with the letters serving as a pivotal plot point in representations of her life. Mary's tragic end, coupled with the unresolved question of her guilt or innocence, has fueled the fascination with her life, transforming her into a figure of martyrdom and resilience. Her execution ultimately strengthened her legacy, with many viewing her as a victim of political machinations rather than a culpable party in Darnley's murder. The story of Mary, Queen of Scots, and the Casket Letters underscores the complexity of political life in 16th century Britain. Mary's life was marked by personal loss, political ambition, and a tragic end. Her journey overshadowed by intrigue and betrayal. The Casket Letters remain a historical mystery, emblematic of the power struggles and character assassinations that defined her era. Whether genuine or forged, these letters contributed significantly to Mary's downfall, forever shaping her legacy as one of history's most fascinating and tragic queens. As we continue to examine the life of Mary, Queen of Scots, the Casket Letters serve as a reminder of the volatile intersection of personal and political motives, leaving an indelible mark on history's portrayal of this controversial monarch.